round of applause for the first thing.
Yeah, I'll do this.
Okay, so hi everyone. We're algorithmically based. In terms of the name conception, I'm not really sure where that came from. I'm sure there's like all of them out there.
I'll brief explainer. So like first of all, we wanted to go first. So we gotta have the letter A, so algorithmically, and then I thought, we're based it's based in algorithmic processes, it's close enough, right? So we got the algorithmically, like the base, you get an idea.
So I'll start off. My name's Christina, and I'll give a general overview about what exactly we did or we started off with, and then we'll be followed by Holly, who was in charge of the analysis and the more technical overview of the project, going through the trend and limitations of the data that we were given. Then I guess Max is where he brought the at, where he's going to talk about the strategy, implementation, and also more importantly the considerations we made, as well as the limitations again of the actual code. And finally, wrap up with the conclusions and key findings. So yes, before talking about the strategy, I guess like all the other teams, we had to look at the data set first, right? And then, so this included data wrangling, visualization, all the stuff we kind of like and don't like. But yeah, we particularly looked at more simplistic approaches, hopefully. We didn't want to overcomplicate things, given the relationship between the different instruments we were given. Taking that into consideration, we looked at exponential smoothing, accounting for error, identification of particular trends that Harley will talk later, and considerations of seasonality, repetition, any kind of patterns. And then, yeah, we went back to the basics, weighted average to past observations, and we then extrapolated to hopefully look at future past using historical data.
Yeah. So fine. As the sort of first point, take the data, range the data, look at the data. It's essentially given to us as everyone knows prices and time. So basically, I thought, given that it was a time series, I'd try and bring a model to try and sort of look at where I did. Yeah, so I wanted to use the arena model to try and sort of figure out some correlation if it's correlated itself over time, how it's going to move, what that's going to look like. And from there, we went on to looking at the correlation between actual instruments themselves. There was some correlation that was demonstrated by the sort of yellow tiers down the dendrogram, but we couldn't actually fit anything really to that correlation that we liked and was regular. So it was sort of like a hit and miss with that. So we sort of scrapped both those ideas. The next idea was to look at the volatility between days and then try and mean reversion of that. We have both month data approximately and day data. Again, that was another sort of tool that we wanted to try and use that we sort of ended up scrapping moving into the strategy itself. So the strategy itself was essentially we wanted to smooth out a lot of the noise across the data. And because it was day by day, we ended up choosing sort of like a moving average, crossover and divergence, and then relative strength index for each instrument. Should be quite good, it's not. So basically, developing this strategy, we wanted to go over simplicity and make our decisions based around things that we could feel were relatively predictive of. So in that, the strategy is driven by changing market conditions for dynamic algorithm performance. And I think that's
it. So just clarification. Okay, yeah, is that good? Okay, cool. So just on the other slides there, those graphs we do, they do roll through every day, but not at the moment. But they all look the same essentially for the huge trend holds true for essentially all of the indicators. So that's just what the idea of those graphics were, just clarify that. And then in terms of strategy implementation, just gotta Yeah, so if you see so in the top there, that's basically what I've got. So progressive mean and linear models, and so that's essentially where we're kind of using the MAPD kind of logic there to essentially use that to create a that's kind of our how we're gonna act, and then what we kind of evaluate our price using so we use the moving averages, and then we take the linear fits moving averages and we trade on the gradient, and then we kind of use the MAPD kind of concept to be able to kind of measure momentum and I guess justify what we're doing as an idea of kind of to make sure that we're actually following the trend. So we're not necessarily buying in a downtrend or things like that. So that's the idea with that. And the code snippets there are commented. So yeah, I just go to this. Yeah, sorry, I just keep telling you. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, so strategy, performance. So I just put in a historical price, I guess, profit and loss chart there, so you can see the performance. So based on the scoring metrics, we kind of wanted the algorithm to be fairly consistent, considering the standard deviation of our returns was a big impact on the score. So what we kind of wanted was to for our profits to be consistent and to minimize the losses, because the losses really, we noticed they took a big hit to our overall score. Even though we may make more money, it was better to maybe reduce some of that returns to get a better standard deviation just for the scoring system. And that's, I guess, what I'm just trying to visualize there, is that we're fairly consistent in that manner with that trend there. And
so quickly the recommendations. So as quickly summarized, so we're using the moving average to get a linear regression and trading basically if the gradient is positive or negative. So first is that we don't having a dynamic evaluation, so taking into account previous like wins or losses, I guess, and trying to adjust the algorithm as it goes. Right now, we do the same thing using the whole time. And also just performing great analysis. We didn't find any trends in the data, but if there was any, then we have to implement that to our algorithm. Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Good question. So thank you for that. So moving average, which quantities did you apply moving average to? Prices, returns,
which
or price?
oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Price.
Model takes into
Okay. And then and was it done on a stock by stock basis, or were you?
Yes.
Okay, so
something showing up there by the average, because when you have all the instruments together, it's just something this. So
yeah,
we did an instrument by instrument.
Yes, and so that's assessed in the code, just with the iterative. We apply the same kind of procedure of determining how we want to do that, and then the averages we use the total sample, as we found that worked quite well, and then we use that to model our trend, as we noticed that the reversion on any trends was very minimal. So we decided to be more strict to the actual trend itself, I guess, rather than presuming for alterations to the trend. We've kind of noticed that there is this trend and we're going to stick with it. So most of our effort is going into just identifying the correct trend.
So would you say that your trading decisions are then based on purely the price history of that one stock, regardless of what the other instruments are doing?
Yes,
right?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, that is true. Because just and that was what we tried to visualize with those other graphics is that we found there to be actually low significant correlation between the assets. Whether or not that's true, that's what our analysis led us to believe. And so based on our understanding of the data, that's what we decided to go with.
All good. Just quick, can you 10 seconds, how does MACD model work?
MACD. So you can from my understanding, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so basically it fits the moving average, and there's a signal line that when you cross over the signal line, it gives you a signal when the weather files. So it's sort of like a smooth exponential moving average of the prices, trailing lag fit. So it's supposed to, I don't know how it actually did, identify whether or not the files based on it.
And we use that as a check we use that to check on our buying conditions. So we know the trend, but we want to check if it's reasonable according to the trend. So we use the MACD as kind of a verification on our decision.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Max. Before we bring on the next stage, we're gonna see if we can fix the mic situation. Give us 2 minutes.
It's like very sensitive.